Joyce is known to be one of the toughest heavyweight fighters in the world currently. However, he has indicated an interest in fighting one of the biggest heavyweight boxers in the world. Who is he interested in fighting next? Another big heavyweight fighter, Francis Ngannou, the UFC heavyweight champion, however, has not been in action this season. What has kept the big man out? Stay tuned to the biggest news on combat sports. First up, who is Joyce interested in fighting next? Joyce has stated that he's interested in a boxing match with Francis Ngannou. Joyce isn't the type to back down from a big challenge. That's why he got all giddy whenever Francis Ngannou was mentioned. The duo previously shared sparring rounds at the UFC's Performance Institute in Las Vegas to prepare for his fight with Daniel Dubois in 2020. So now Joyce has taken it a step further, saying he wants to fight Ngannou. "I sparred Ngannou before the Dubois bout. He's a big, powerful man," he told Give Me Sport. Joyce added that sparring with Ngannou was a great learning experience. He described Ngannou as a weirdo. His strength is just remarkable. He spent much of his time trying to avoid those power shots to prevent my head from getting blown off. He would love to fight Ngannou, but Joyce wants to keep things straightforward and stick to boxing. Ngannou is in UFC, which involves mixed martial arts. It's just too much for Joyce, who's just a boxer. To compete in UFC, you have to be well-rounded in kicking, striking, grappling, and submissions. So kudos to all those men for putting in the time and effort to train for all those different aspects of the sport. Almost a year since his last outing, in which he stopped Carlos Takam in 6 rounds at Wembley Arena, Joyce, 35, has won back-to-back fights against Christian Hammer and Joseph Parker. Up next, what is Joyce's training like? Training as a heavyweight boxer is very difficult. Joyce added he had known Duncan French for ages, and he was part of the Team GB structure behind the scenes. But now he's out there, so there's a relationship. Many other boxers have visited the gym since Joyce started training there. Incredibly, Joyce is not the only one training there. However, we've also got Deontay Wilder, Michael Hunter, Jonathan Rice, Charles Martin, and other heavy hitters using the gym. It's great because you're constantly interacting with one another. He added that after sparring with Sergey Spivak, he was sparring with him and then obviously went on to put up a pretty dominant performance against Joseph Parker. And now, what has kept Francis Ngannou out of action for so long? Francis Ngannou explained how he hurt his right knee roughly 3 weeks before his UFC 270 encounter. On January 22, 2022, UFC 270 was supposed to take place, pitting heavyweight champion Ngannou against interim champion Cyril Gane. Francis Ngannou looked back on his last UFC bout in a video released on his YouTube page. Ngannou said he hurt his knee on December 28, 2021 during sparring. Eric Nixick, Ngannou's head coach, added that a German sparring partner was requested to spar around with the heavyweight champion. In response, the Predator recalled that his knee injury resulted from a last-ditch takedown attempt from his sparring partner. "We engaged in some little fighting. He became overwhelmed, and as though in a desperate attempt to bring someone down, he fired. Then, as I turned around, I heard a cracking sound emanate from my knee. The moment you hear it on your knee, you know something is up." Francis Ngannou's coaching team, Eric Nixick and Dewey Cooper, Ngannou's striking coach, all agreed that supporting Francis's rapid recovery from his injury should be the team's main focus. After the injury, they believed Ngannou couldn't participate in his regular workout. However, they did their best to get him ready for the fight by having him exercise in a safe environment and administering stem cell therapy and other medical procedures. At UFC 270, Ngannou fought Gane and won a unanimous decision to unify the heavyweight championship. It's funny how Ngannou's wrestling helped him win the finals against the Frenchman. So what is the state of Francis Ngannou's contract with the UFC? The current UFC heavyweight champion, Francis Ngannou, rose from poverty and incarceration to become one of the world's most formidable punchers. Francis Ngannou, the current Ultimate Fighting Championship UFC heavyweight champion, is one of the world's most well-known and feared fighters. However, he needed an easy path to the top. Ngannou, often known as the Predator, was born in Beatty, Cameroon, and spent his formative years living in extreme poverty. Ngannou reported that he had to battle rats for scraps of food from garbage cans when he was a kid, as he recalled doing so in an interview with Joe Rogan. The UFC and Francis Ngannou have yet to agree on a contract renewal. ACL and MCL surgery were performed in March on the current UFC heavyweight champion. Early in 2023 is projected as the time he returns to the ring after his knee ailment recovers. It is still being determined, though, if he will fight again in the UFC or try his hand at boxing. Francis Ngannou said that he and UFC President Dana White got along great, except when he brings up contract negotiations in a podcast he did with Joe Pompliano earlier this year. According to the 36-year-old, things went south between him and the UFC after he demanded a higher salary. To express his displeasure with the UFC, Ngannou said, "In my case, no, not at all. To put it bluntly, I was mistreated. As a result of my beliefs, I made a request." Up next, who will Francis Ngannou defend his heavyweight title against if he returns? Francis Ngannou of Cameroon is expected to defend his UFC heavyweight title next year, maybe against a revitalized John Bones Jones. In 2020, John Bones Jones gave up his light heavyweight title so that he may compete at the heavyweight level. Jones was the greatest champion in UFC history before vacationing from mixed martial arts. Francis Ngannou's contract with the UFC expires at the end of the year, and a new deal has yet to be agreed upon. The long-awaited return of John Bones Jones to the UFC may finally happen in 2019 with a bout against his toughest opponent yet on the table. His last fight was in February 2020 when he successfully defended his light heavyweight belt against Dominic Reyes. So far, Jones hasn't fought, but why not? 6 months after his last fight, Jones declared that he was stepping up to the heavyweight class to challenge for the title, as reported by MMA Weekly. Before he took some time away from fighting, Jones was widely regarded as the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. He has 26 victories, 1 loss, and 1 no contest on his professional record. It has been reported that Jones will return to the octagon for UFC events in 2019. There are discussions about scheduling a fight between him and current UFC heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou. Also being discussed is a potential matchup with Curtis Blaydes. Even Cameroon's reigning champion hasn't been seen in quite some time. Tapology confirmed that Ngannou's last fight was in January 2022 when he defended his title against Cyril Gane. The champion had knee surgery back in March and is still out. The end of the year also marks the end of Ngannou's contract with the UFC. A new contract between the fighter and the promotion has yet to be reached. In other related news, Tyson Fury wants to fight Joe Joyce. In an interview, reigning WBC heavyweight king Tyson Fury called out fellow unbeaten British boxer Joe Joyce. Fury is still targeting a unification meeting with WBO, WBA, and IBF title holder Alexander Usyk in February. After successfully defending his crown against Dillian Whyte in a 6th-round stoppage in April, the incumbent WBC heavyweight champion has decided to return to the ring Saturday, December 3rd for a fight against Derek Chisora. The rematch between Anthony Joshua and WBA, WBO, and IBF champion Alexander Usyk, who was originally scheduled to fight the Gypsy King next month, has been pushed back to February but is still on Fury's agenda. After beating Chisora twice in 2011 and 2014, the undefeated 34-year-old still has Usyk in his sights. However, there is still also the possibility of a showdown with fellow unbeaten British boxer Joyce at Wembley. Joyce improved to 15-0 with 14 knockouts after knocking out Joseph Parker to win the interim WBO title. Fury said, "Usyk is top of the shopping list provided I come through this one, and if not, a rematch with Chisora for a 4th time. Let's do Joyce at Wembley if Usyk wants to avoid smoking in February." He told Joe Joyce to start moving and get in shape, and Joe Joyce should be out of the middleweight division if the middleweights don't want any smoke. Fury said he would fight 3 times next year, and Joyce might be one of my opponents. Fury added that Joyce is the number 2 heavyweight behind him, or maybe number 3, because he believes only he can overcome Deontay Wilder's strength. Fury will fight Chisora for only the 2nd time since completing his trilogy with Wilder in October 2021 through an 11th-round knockout of the hard-hitting American. Chisora ended a 3-fight losing record with a split decision victory over Kubrat Pulev in July. However, Fury plans to be busier in 2023, telling promoter Frank Warren that he wants 3 bouts next year. We've come to the end of this video. Kindly drop your thoughts in the comments section, and thank you for sticking around. See you in the next video. Bye.